Fighting games are, for the most part, pretty hit and miss among gamers. You either like them or you don't, and there isn't a lot that can change that. Those that enjoy the genre typically align themselves with one, maybe two specific games and don't often venture beyond that. This is because each game is different and it's on a kind of sliding scale. Your game is either super similar to another with only minor differences, or way off different with almost nothing in common with any other game. The one thing that traditional fighters have in common is a very deep mental kind of gameplay that involves getting inside your opponent's headspace to trip them up and force them into misplays. You use what boils down to a rock, paper, scissors game of blocks, grabs, and attacks to whittle down the other player's HP and score yourself a victory. When you look at Ian Snyder's Botolo, you probably won't see it as a fighting game or even see how they relate. And that's honestly fair. It doesn't have any of the traditional marks of a fighter. No health bars, no combos, and it's not even best 2 out of 3, but at its core, it follows the same rock, paper, scissors, trip your opponent up mindfuckery gameplay. It's really fitting, given that Botolo was inspired by the mental strategy and conflict that 1v1 fighters entail. There's a lot of predicting your opponent's moves and trying to play around their strategies, and the game does it really well. Botolo puts 2 players against each other in a King of the Hill style arena. In order to gain points, you need to be in possession of the ball and standing in one of these zones. As you're in there with the ball, you'll slowly capture the area. The player without the ball wants to steal it and take it into a zone of their own. When you're next to a player and trying to steal, the player in possession of the ball can block with a limited pool of energy. Successfully blocking gets you some bonus progress on capturing the area, but failing to do so shoots the ball off in a random direction and leaves you slowed down and kinda defenseless for a moment. The player without the ball is able to make use of one of a few powers that can be chosen before a match starts. A few of these kind of manipulate the field and create a zone of fuckery, specifically one that pushes the players in it quickly in a direction, but they all serve the purpose of mixing things up and throwing your opponent off balance so you can swoop in and make a play. Steals beat trying to avoid conflict, blocks beat steals, and powers beat blocks. It's the same rock, paper, scissors style mind game that goes on in fighters, and it translates to some pretty intense gameplay as you and your friends sit next to each other struggling for victory. A lot of people are probably going to wish that Botolo allowed more than 2 players to play at a time, and that's understandable, but note that its 1v1 gameplay is more than enough to make it shine. Ian tried to implement larger playgroups, but found that it completely imbalanced the game. Instead of having both options available and leaving one mode of play totally out of whack, he opted to stick to 1v1 in order to keep the intense mind games that larger playgroups would kind of just throw out the window. If you have a friend to sit down and play Botolo with, I very highly recommend it. There is an AI opponent that you can play against, and it's pretty cool how it learns how you play using a mixture of algorithms and a record of past actions, but I have to agree with Ian himself when he says that it just doesn't live up to having a friend right next to you and playing against another human. You can pick up Botolo on Steam for about 15 bucks normally. Despite how polished and kick-ass this game is, it's hard to recommend a game that's best played with someone physically next to you that also doesn't have much content for the price. Well, I think it's worth it. Given the amount of work that went into fine-tuning it and creating something unique and wonderful, I get that it's a bit of a steep price for what's really there. Regardless, if $15 is too much, but it sounds like something you'd enjoy, then I highly recommend you keep an eye on it. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Indie Bytes. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to leave a like and subscribe for more stuff like this. Be sure to check out the other content that we put out on this channel, and remember to drop me a line here on Twitter or through email with any game recommendations that you've got. You can find all that stuff down in the description below. I'll see you next time. Bye!